Welcome to the world-renowned Invest in Her podcast with your host, Catherine Gray. Catherine is a keynote and TEDx speaker, author, executive producer of the movie Show Her the Money, also CEO and founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation. Our weekly show of powerhouse women, founders, funders, and changemakers is sure to inspire you. Let's go.
Welcome to this week's edition of Invest in Her. I'm your host, Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation. And of course, the executive producer of Show Her the Money movie. And today, as always, I've got on a really special guest. You're not going to want to miss this. It's Wadooah Wali. And she is a pioneer entrepreneur, strategic visionary, and creative producer. I also want to say that the best description for her is after 20 years in the business, she's at the intersection of media evolution and cultural influence. What a great combination, right? Please welcome to the show, Wadooah. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. I think I like how you've condensed that. I think I might have to take that for myself.
We'll use the soundbite, huh?
Yeah, I will. We'll give credit where credit is due.
Well,
Thank you so
I'm
much for
so
having
glad
me.
that we connected. I think a lot of people are wondering, how does VR, come into being with filmmaking and entertainment? And you have really married the two in a fascinating way. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, no, I'm excited, and I'm excited to have this conversation because I want to help demystify it a little bit because for people who don't know, it's not just the future anymore. It's actually here, it's happening, and my business partner and I talk about it in terms of, well, you may not be old enough to remember this, but like back in the mid 90s when the internet was being rolled out, and a lot of
Oh,
people
I
were on the
love that
fence
you
about.
said that about my age. I love you already.
Well, old timers like me, like there were a lot of consumers that are like, the internet's not for me, or that's for the weird people doing it in their basements at night. And look at how the internet has infiltrated all aspects of our life. And so if you take it out, I mean, like one of the hard things about the space is that nobody's really marketed it well. So you hear VR, you hear spatial computing, these are all things that are outside of us. But I mean, I think that there've been more people leaning into this idea of spatial computing because I think it's more inherent for what we do in our normal lives. And so if you think about the way that the internet has influenced our everyday lives, it's still happening. It's just pushing into new mediums.
Well, I mean, you're obviously a trailblazer. So let's talk a little bit about your background because you've been in this 20 years and you've been in traditional media. And I want to know how you made that, juxtaposition, that leap into this new type of entertainment. And I want to say that you worked with Demand Media through its IPO. That must have been exciting. And then WarnerMedia Fullscreen, and then podcast pioneer Midroll Media, EarWolf, which was later acquired by Scripps. So it seems like everything you touch, pretty much turns to gold there, Wadooah.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I've always, since I was a little girl growing up in Gainesville, Florida, I considered myself a
Wait a minute.
storyteller.
Wait a minute. You grew up in Gainesville?
Born and raised
Oh
Gainesville.
my God,
I
I'm
don't know
going
if
to
you heard that.
Gainesville because University of Florida, which is located there, is my alma mater, and we're going there to show her the money. I'm going to speak to the business class there. So, wow, I didn't know that's where you were from. That's really cool.
Yeah, from Gainesville to now here in LA, and it's with a little pit stop in San Francisco. I think that's maybe where I picked up some of the tech.
Were you in Gainesville in like 79, 80, 81?
I was there, so I was born there in 74, and then my family moved to Ohio for a couple years, but then we moved
Oh,
back to Gainesville probably in 1980 onward. So yeah, I have every now and then if I talk about our time in Cincinnati, you'll hear me say Cincinnati or water, but
yeah.
I try to I struggle with my accents even with saying Gainesville.
It was
Um,
great going to school there because they had one of the best broadcast journalism schools in the country, and that's what I had the opportunity to go to. The good fortune of that, and it's where I did my first radio DJ job, where I learned about, film and production, and it was really a great school. So
Well,
I love
if you
that.
grow up in the city, I mean, like in a town, it's not, what isn't even a city, Gainesville. You have to leave when I mean, like, you feel the urge to get out. So I got out to the big city of Tampa, went to school at University of South Florida. Actually worked at the public radio station there during my college days
Oh,
and did like
cool.
online pledge drives and volunteer fund drives and coordinating with the companies to give the volunteers food. So like it was. Early on I was, and I also did a little internship doing like Cox Cable, the little local cable. So
Oh,
I was
now
like,
see, and I was in cable television advertising. We have eh, so we're spending our podcast letting everybody know we have a lot in common.
right. And we come from the the older iterations of what we're currently using of Zoom and
Yeah.
streaming through
Yes.
technology.
So I want to talk about your newest endeavor because you're the co-founder and chief strategy officer at New Canvas. Want to talk about what that is because you're an award-winning XR studio with social impact. And I have a feeling my listeners are going to say, what is that? Some of them will say that. Right? And so
Absolutely.
let's talk about that. And also you were a co-founder at Reverie. And I want to talk about that too, because that the gay channel that has streaming programming for the LGBTQ community. So you were one of the co-founders there. Also interesting. I'm sure it all ties in. But let's talk first about New Canvas. What is it? I know you said recently you were at a big event, and I think you said it was Google that said they have an alliance with you.
Yes, yes. So we were at
Cool.
a conference called Augmented World Expo, or AWE, as the insiders call it, in Long Beach, just a couple of weeks ago. And Google was giving their keynote presentation about Google XR and their new headset device that's coming, that they're partnered with Samsung and Qualcomm. And they were giving the presentation to this packed room, and then they threw up the logo wall, and they were talking about, here are the developers that we're working with. And so it was a proud moment for our little 4.5-year-old, 5-year-old company to be up there in the space and and have Google throwing us this love, and
Well,
we're
yeah.
really excited.
Yeah, I mean, that
Um,
means you're pioneers in this content building space for XR, and that Google is already recognizing you. Did you know you were going to be in that presentation?
Not that one. We knew about when they did the Google I/O keynote in May. That was the world stage when they were presenting and streaming across the world. And so our contact had asked us for our logo and told us that they're to look out for something. So we were, waiting and watching the whole presentation, which was also equally fascinating as they're talking about Gemini, which is their AI project. I mean, their product that's just AI is everywhere. That's a whole other conversation. But just seeing how all those touch points weaved into the things that we're doing, and what's contributing to the excitement about this new device that's coming out.
I think one of the best ways to explain what it is you do, at least for my own, my own understanding of what I know about it, is this project that you did with Elliot Page, the actor, and their group, PAGEBOY Productions. So you did a flagship VR series.
We are actually
Oh,
working on the pilot now.
oh, you're
We
working on the
announced it,
pilot. Okay.
yes, and we've created a prototype, or a teaser, if you will, that we're using to take around, to shop around to partners and whatnot as we continue to develop the story. Our, my hope and goal is to go into production later this year on the pilot that Elliot Page and Page Boy are partnered with us on, and it's really exciting to have someone like Elliot who's not just an advocate, and the name of the project is When Brooklyn Was Queer. So it's not just about the subject matter, and it's a credible book based by Hugh Ryan, who's also one of our executive producers on the project. Elliot is actually a VR fan. And so, like during the pandemic, I found this out later that he was actually posting, like videos and things of him using VR to train for a boxing role for a project that he was working on. And then just through working with him and the team, they've all talked about how when they first started working there, that he bought them all headsets because, they're all traveling, they're all disconnected on the go. And the headsets were a great way to keep them connected and to make them feel closer and more and deeper communication, even though they're spread across geographies. So,
So, like with this project, when Brooklyn was queer, reminds me of, I think, a VR video that I saw a couple years ago. Actually, my wife's son created it. It was about when in America we had the Japanese internment camps. Funny timing right now, right? But he did this a couple years ago, and you would go down to the Japanese American Museum and hold up an iPad and virtually experience it as though you were standing there as they were putting them on the buses to take them to the internment camps. I would think uh, this would probably be similar to what you're doing with when Brooklyn was queer, taking you back in history as though you're actually there. I think this could be the most incredible tool for young people to learn about history because it literally puts you there. Am I right?
puts you and 100%. It puts you there. And then the other thing that to think about is that naturally we see in 3D, so that's why when we are consuming things in this way, it hits deeper because we feel closer and more connected to it because
It
it's
makes you
truer
feel
to
like
our
you're there, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so that's what we're going to do as well. I mean, Hugh's book is very factual and dense with so much rich information that you can flip the page and put your finger on it and say, "Oh my God, I can tell a whole story just about that." This little section right here, which is kind of where we're starting from. We have the rights for the VR rights for the book, so we're going to take that and run with it. But right now, I was just like, let's just focus on making a sweet pilot that we can just entice everybody to lean in and then go from there. And so we're saying that it's gonna feel like Chicago meets Pose in terms of style and just energy. But we're going to recreate the 1890s theater. That's where we're setting the pilot. It's The pilot is based on two male impersonators who actually lived. One named Florence Hines, the other Ella Wessner. And people would be surprised to know that male impersonators, drag kings were the celebrities and the influence of the time. So we just, and like, especially, and this is even before we started working on this before this current climate that we're in, but it's just like, let's have this moment. And like, we're drag queens are, being part of the Olympics. And let's bring it back to the 1890s when they were actually getting, cigarette deals or endorsement deals with brands, I should say, not just cigarettes, but champagne and whatnot. And like I said, they were showrunners, they were influencers, and we just didn't have the language for it. So I just want to open people's eyes to like, and have them step into this world of that actually existed. So it's going to
Right.
be a lot of fun, very powerful. It'll kind of probably feel like being at the theater. I mean, like that experience that you have at the theater, which is different than watching it at home, because as an audience member, you have agency and you're not just watching there, you're watching what's happening off to the side. You're, like taking it all in. So we're
Yeah,
really
that
excited about it.
3D feeling that you're in the theater. That is so cool.
Immersed.
I think
Yes.
I mentioned to you, but I'm not sure that one of the first films I did a long time ago was called Way Off Broadway, and it was the first TV show to feature female impersonators, drag queens, um, ever
Well,
in the
yeah,
United
you would.
States. Yeah. It just aired in Miami. I bought the airtime on a local channel and created the show and put it on because I thought, hey, this is entertainment, and we should also be able to, find out what LGBTQ community businesses and locations there are, and created that TV show back in, I think it was definitely the late 80s,
Wow,
before we had
trailblazer.
Will and Grace and things like that. But this is even more fascinating because you're taking people back in time to experience those shows, how they were, and in these theaters. It's fascinating what can be done with this virtual reality. But what I don't understand, I think a lot of people don't. How do you consume this? So you make this uh, pilot, which is I'm just looking for the name. When Brooklyn was queer, And we get to go back in time and see how it was with the drag kings and whatnot back in that era and go to a show and it's like you're sitting there. How do they experience that?
The experience will be through a headset. So you'll have to, I mean, I shouldn't say you'll have to have one because part of the reason why we're not in production yet is I'm looking to line up partners, location based exhibitions so that it can be a traveling exhibition too. So people can either watch it at home if they do have the headset, or we can create this experience where people can go and visit it and actually have a little bit of a shared reality experience as they're, able to watch it and learn about things. So it's just, it's the difference of, going to sit in front of the TV or looking at your phone or your iPad to watch a video. You put on the headset and the world will unfold around you. I mean,
So,
it's really, yeah, you're
so
immersed in
you
it.
could do this at a movie theater. Go to the movie theater, put
Yep.
on your headsets, and then it feels like you're at a 3D uh, type of a movie that you're experiencing, that you're there,
That
right?
you're there, exactly. And I know AMC has already, one of the theater chains has been experimenting with bringing different VR exhibitions into the space. And some people, if they're lucky enough to be in cities where the Sandbox, it's a company called the Sandbox is, you can actually go to that space and have different experiences with the headset that you don't have to own. So, like I said, this is starting to feel like if you, again, going back to the 90s, if people didn't have internet at home, they would go to the library or they would go to school to use it. And then eventually it comes into the home. So this is that inflection point that we are seeing with XR. And I call it, and just to set the tone, XR is the all-inclusive name for the space. So you were talking about the internment camps and using the iPads, and so that's more of an AR, an augmented reality type of experience. There's mixed reality where, like either with these smart glasses, there's so many smart glasses coming out now, and over the next year, they're going to have AI and AR, where you're going to be able to have these digital objects in your physical space. So imagine wearing my glasses and I'm walking down the street and I ask my glasses, I'm like, I need to get to the coffee shop, but do I take a left or the right? Glasses will put up a map right out in front of you. And then I can actually, because sometimes it's hard for me to follow like the little, when they're the indicators. So actually being able to have that guide with me as I walk to the shop. I mean, it's going to be a little scary for people, but change usually is, but
Right,
not
right.
necessarily a bad thing. It just is going to enhance everything that we do.
So there's a little difference between, say, augmented reality, AR, and VR,
Yeah.
virtual reality. And and that's what you were explaining, that difference.
Yes, yes. Just the word itself, it's augmenting your current reality. So it's not replacing anything. It's just adding to the way that you already see the world. Whereas virtual reality, that's when it come and takes over your reality. So what you're seeing is virtual, but it feels real.
So what you're seeing is virtual, but it feels real.
Because I went to for example, I went to the Titanic exhibit in the Beverly Center last week on the eighth floor. So if you're here in LA, go check it out. And you have this headset on the whole time, and it's a blank space. Like to walk into the room, you don't see anything. You see a lot of tape and a lot of weird matting on the floors and walls. But when you put on the headset, there's moments where I mean I felt like I was trying to lean on the railing on the Titanic and I was like, oh right, it's not there.
Wow. So that would be virtual reality. And then augmented reality, give that to me one more time.
Augmented reality is things that are you still have the view of your real world. You just happen to have things that are digital that are brought in.
That are augmenting it, like you just explained, like the map.
Yes, like the
Yeah.
map, or if you're looking at a plant and you said, okay, I want to see, like what is that plant? And then something could pop up and be right beside the plant and have the little instructions on how to care for it or something. So it's not, I mean, but you're not taken out of your physical environment. You're still seeing everything that's in the space.
And that's the difference between the two. What a great explanation. I think my listeners are going to love even that explanation because I think most people would not know the difference between the two. Or maybe I'm just speaking about myself.
No, no. I mean, it is. No, I mean, I've been doing this for a little while now, so it
Yeah,
definitely, and I'm happy to explain it. I mean, I think,
yeah.
like I said, it just hasn't been marketed well. So,
It
as the
hasn't.
average
People don't
person,
understand it. So they're not going to adapt to something or adopt things that they don't understand. I think,
adapt or adopt, either way.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, thanks for that explanation. So would you say the entertainment industry is moving in this direction, but the old media will coexist?
Absolutely. I mean, just
Yeah.
like radio didn't replace theater, TV didn't replace the radio, TV didn't replace film or theater, like all of these things still exist in some way. I mean, I don't really listen to the radio anymore, except if I'm being lazy and I'm just going for a short trip, but I know it's there. I mean, but I know I can flip to streaming and, we're just going to have more choice in the way that we consume media.
I
And
would
it's
think,
gonna
I would think, but besides the entertainment being revolutionized industry, I think also education will be.
100%. Well, during the pandemic, just as I was, starting to join, but just before I joined New Canvas, I worked with a team doing it was kind of like a choose your own adventure dementia training for caregivers for the VR headsets. And so, we did a whole shoot where, I mean, and shooting the same scene multiple times just so we can get those different trainings so that if you're at home and you're suddenly find yourself, well, if it's not suddenly, if you're a nurse or you're a family member and you're needing to care for somebody, you have access to these tools and it'll help you go down a certain path and it just allows you to be able to be closer to the material and just really learn and there was another one that we did for it was a virtual field trip to a bee farm, so we wanted to make sure that kids in schools maybe in the inner cities that couldn't go to we partnered with Sweet Virginia Foundation and we wanted to make sure that that information was accessible to them so they can put on the headset. We actually also did an implementation on the phone so that people can, without the headset, still have a similar experience of this virtual field trip to a honeybee farm. So, I mean, like what it's doing for education, let's not even get started with talking about medicine. There are people who are doctors who are using it to improve the way that they would do surgery. I mean, like I said, it's not the future. It is actually here and happening.
And would virtual reality and augmented reality, does that fall under the AI umbrella?
They are now. I mean, especially like one of the big takeaways coming out of AWE is that AI needs XR. It's running out of internet content, and XR needs the real world, and that's where the AI comes in. And so XR kind of gives AI human senses, like voice interaction. And so then both of these two industries have had the most growth. I mean, XR is right behind AI in terms of the way that it's taken off in the marketplace.
Wow. Well, again, you're in the right place at the right time with with New Canvas. People need to check that out, especially if they want to create a project that involves either AR or VR. Now that they both know what both of those mean.
Right.
Um,
And you could actually have a project that could involve both. It doesn't have to be an either or. I like to say life is not an either or proposition. Same with creating content in this way. You can
okay, now
have,
I'm trying to wrap my head around that one.
well, imagine if you will, if you're having experience, like maybe you're watching because we've talked about having some AR or mixed reality with when Brooklyn was queer. So imagine if you're watching a scene where in the theater and then the theater falls away and you walk to your window and you're able to look outside, but then all of a sudden you don't what you're seeing outside is the street, the street from the 1890s, but you're looking around your house and you're like, I'm in my living room, but I look outside the window and I can see the 1890s. It's still, you don't have to take off your headset. It's all just, the way that it's delivered to you is just based on the way it's coded, which is based on the experience. So you can have multiple experiences in one.
Wow, that is mind blowing.
So if you
Yeah.
think about the storytelling that you can do, all the nuances, the layering, the action or the emotion that you can create just from those experiences. And I will say that just kind of rethinking what you were saying about the movie industry, they are thinking about this. I went to Cosm, which is one of these half dome. So if you know about the Sphere in Vegas, which is a full dome
Oh,
experience,
yes. Everyone's talking about the Vegas sphere. Yeah.
yeah, I need to get there because they're going to do the Wizard of Oz. And just based on what I saw in the half dome experience at Cosm for the Matrix, which I've seen a bazillion times, it's next level. I mean, I went with somebody who's been in the industry for a while, and she's like, I would say that you need to have somebody on site with you in production, thinking about the way these things are shot. And because you're not just shooting for one type of medium anymore, you can repurpose those assets for these different mediums. And so it's like, wow, these some of these movies can get a second life or a third life, like new
Right.
iterations of it. So new business models are being thought of in terms, and also new production lines. So I'm just going to keep saying it's not the future, it's here.
So, a movie that you might see like Superman would have to be shot in a way that it could also incorporate being virtual reality and or AR.
Or I mean, not necessarily, because the cameras that people are using now are high quality enough, and so
Oh, so that you could just transport it into that just by the way you um, edit
just
it,
having
or
the footage, just
what's the
having the
process?
footage. Yeah, if you have the raw footage, and this is what my friend was talking about in terms of having somebody on site to think about it, because there was a scene where Neo is getting out of the bed and his legs were cut off, and just the way that Cosm has, like up leveled this whole experience, you could actually see his whole, like if they had shot it differently, we could see that scene play out very differently. But because it was our only shot in this tight frame, that was all they were able to work with. So
Right, so they have to think about it ahead of time. Yeah,
right, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But once you have that footage, we, like currently the process is putting it into a gaming engine like Unity or Unreal, but it's the same footage. It's just being put in this new dynamic environment that allows you to do all these other things.
Right, right. Well, New Canvas seems to be at the leading edge of this whole transformation of entertainment industry into AR and VR. Thank you so much for giving us an education on it. It's super exciting. Love the projects that you're working on. And yeah, just thanks for being a great guest and giving us some education here today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to seeing you at the Show Her the Money event soon. And great film, and thank you so much for having me again and just supporting the space.
And Wadooah, what's the best way for people to reach you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. I am at W2DUBY8 number 2, just because Wadooah Wali, WW. Just fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I look forward to any other questions you or any of your followers have.
And what's the New Canvas website?
New Canvas is www.newcanvas.co. That's CO.
.co. Okay, great. And everybody, you can reach me on LinkedIn, Catherine Gray, Catherine with a C, Gray with an A for those just listening. You can also visit our websites, She Angel Investors. We have a multimedia platform of lots of resources for you. And of course, visit the movie site, which is
Show her the
showherthemoneymovie.com.
money.
And yeah, and don't forget to pick up our new Show Her the Money book too. What a great guest you are. And what is that?
That's your Show Her the Money from
Oh, I love
oh.
it. You have our Show Her the Money bracelets. Cool. Well, that's a good thing for us to end on.
Yeah.
Thanks for being a great guest. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate you. Make it a great day.